right, welcome back to The Big Picture. Okay, sorry about the technical difficulties this morning, but it is Monday. It's a Monday, so bear with us. I want to get our headline graphics now pulled up. Look at that, success. Okay, so right now we are having live looks into the courtroom. Devonte Dixon, he is being sentenced today. That is happening just within the next, couple minutes. You can see we have crews in the courtroom right now, so we'll bring you the latest update on that. But we're also talking to ODOT later in the show. We are discussing how those crews are going to the most impacted flooded areas within the state of Ohio and specifically central Ohio to help those people there that are still impacted by this heavy rain that keeps coming down. It just doesn't stop. Mm-hmm. And then Hayden Panettiere, a famous actress, really popular in the early 2000s and 2010s. She has died in Greenville, South Carolina at the age of 36. So we'll be looking back at her story, her impact, and her struggle that she was very vocal about as recent as May. So heartbreaking news there. And then we're talking back to school.
Back to school. A lot of districts went back last week. Upper Arlington went back today after a delayed start due to the storms of last week. Columbus City School starts this week as well. So there's a lot of stuff that goes along with that, adjustments when it comes to, your driving habits, because we haven't seen school buses on the road in 3 months. But also it's just a big adjustment for students and families as well. So let's talk a little bit about that Devonte Dixon sentencing. So this all happened late last year, earlier this year, but he is the man who pleaded guilty May of 2025. So gosh, that feels like it wasn't that long ago, but it was.
No, it was. And he was 22 when it happened. Yeah. But he got pulled over. I'll quickly summarize this for you as I'm monitoring this right now. He's about to walk into the courtroom. Police pulled him over, and he ended up shooting at 2 officers. In Mifflin Township. So then that led police officers on a 2-day manhunt for him. They could not locate him. And then it all resulted in a standoff, which standoffs can be dangerous.
Right. All the way to Obetz.
In Obetz.
Which is the other side of Columbus.
Right. And 4 officers were hurt during that. And we know he tried to shoot himself, and he shot himself in the face. He lived. Survived that injury. But we got the memo basically coming from the state today. I'm going to play our package from Amy Steigerwald that she did this morning. Before we get into the sentencing, because we're still monitoring that, but once we see some more movement, I'll take that.
On May 28, 2025, 2 officers stopped a car with Dixon in the passenger seat near the intersection of Mecca Road and Purdue Avenue. Dixon ran from the car and shot and seriously injured 2 Mifflin Township police officers who chased after him. He then led officers on a massive manhunt for 2 days before a SWAT team surrounded him at an apartment complex in Obetz. Dixon shot at 4 officers. Then officers say he shot himself in the face. He survived his injuries and was ultimately taken into custody. Legal representatives for one of the injured officers expressed frustration that this incident was able to happen in the first place.
Daveonte Dixon was a loaded weapon that was put on the streets by the Franklin County Common Pleas Court.
Prior to the May 2025 incident, Dixon pleaded guilty in 2024 to felony aggravated burglary charges, and instead of jail time, he was put on probation for up to 6 months.
He has a lengthy criminal history, and for some reason he was out. Because of the inability of the court system to keep him behind bars, we have 6 victims. 2 victims are police officers that were shot. The other 4 were shot at.
Franklin County Prosecutor Shayla Favor condemned Dixon for his actions in a statement earlier this year, calling them, quote, reprehensible.
Okay. And this morning we got the memorandum from the Franklin County Clerk of Courts for the Common Pleas Court about the victim's sentencing. Devonte Dixon here in this case, and I'm going to read part of this. It's a very thick, long memo, but it says the cost of society created by the defendant's existence. And I'll roughly go over this because it's long, but basically they say, the defendant is a deadweight loss to society. He produces nothing society needs. That which he does produce, society does not need. Every single person in the community, including his friends, family, children, are better off if he lives the rest of his life in a cage. And then it continues to go on. The defendant has proven to be a menace within society. And then this memorandum even goes into his risk and harm to others and his ability to brag about everything that he's done in his years on Earth so far. He I'm going to try to get a closer up image of this. He was drawing what he wanted in prison when he goes to jail.
Right, tattoos for his body, yeah.
And this is what they looked like. And the memorandum outlines basically that this image I'm looking at, it's mocking officers that he shot with the badges collected on the chain around his neck, and the defendant includes the date of the shooting, a broken police badge with Mifflin Township straps, and the craft is an idol out of the weapons and bullet that he fired. So that's a lot.
Yeah, right. And I mean, this whole thing, when it happened, was a much wider expanse than just Dixon. Shortly after this all happened, a grand jury indicted 9 other people accused of helping Dixon in this whole thing, mainly related to being in hiding for 2 days. Also giving him car rides, to and from places to get him basically to evade police. I mean, he had multiple different felonies in the past. 2024, he had aggravated burglary, unlawful possession of a dangerous ordinance, and having weapons while under disability. Those were 2024 charges that stemmed from an incident in 2023. So this wasn't, of course, a one-off, as we've kind of described in this statement from the state.
Yeah, they basically are saying he has no remorse, and does he have a place in society? It literally says the answer is no. So they're looking at trying to give him 90 years prison time. And again, this memorandum outlines all of that. It is, how many pages is this, Collin? It's 18 pages. Outlining his characteristics and type of person that he is. So it'll be interesting to see what the judge ultimately decides. But we're going to keep monitoring that. This was scheduled to start at 9 a.m. It hasn't, but we know the court system, it can lag a little bit.
It'll be like 9:30 by the time they get going.
Yeah, so we're going to switch gears, and we're just going to talk about the weather right now, because it was actually a much different scene about a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, it's finally clearing off a little bit. But obviously over the weekend, much more... another very messy weekend, especially for Perry County. The governor is sending in some additional state resources to Perry, Muskingum, and Morgan counties. I know over the weekend, Perry County had something like 4 dozen water rescues again around New Lexington.
Jeez.
Basically, there was a trailer park that was, flooded out. Those people had to be removed. Right now, there's still that temporary shelter being set up out at the out the Perry County Fairgrounds in New Lexington. For these folks in Perry County, whether they be Crooksville or New Lexington, it's just been hit after hit after hit for the past week. I mean, they flooded out in that storm late Monday night. Then it stormed again on Tuesday, and then it rained again Saturday and yesterday. It's been rough for those people, and then obviously we've got people here in Columbus that are still picking up pieces from the tornado damage on the south side. Upper Arlington still putting themselves back together, and we're just getting rain again.
Yeah, you were out and about on Sunday,
I totally misjudged. I thought I had enough time for a bike ride to get my bike ride in. I did not. Had it been 15 minutes more, I would have made it home. Did not. I got stuck under the bridge at 3:15.
Well, Collin, I was in an airplane.
Yeah.
Literally flying through it. It was very scary.
I'm surprised they didn't send you up to Cleveland or divert you back to Pittsburgh.
We were really close to landing, but then it hit. And so we circled around for 10 minutes in the thunderstorm with lightning. And my stomach, I was like, I'm going to vomit, because it was so bumpy. But our pilot was a professional and he got us landed. But at John Glenn, they had closed down the airport. They weren't having anyone come in or go. But safely made it to work today. Love that.
Good.
Love that. But this weather's got to stop.
Right.
Later in the show, we will have Justin Gertz coming on to talk more about what we can expect and kind of just the weather that we've been experiencing the last couple weeks. And I mean, there's a hurricane, this tropical storm in Hawaii that hit. I mean, it's just, everyone's been getting really battered.
I mean, there's video of plow trucks pushing hail off the roads in Colorado.
Roofs off.
So.
I mean, it's crazy. So, all right, we're going to keep monitoring this Devonte Dixon situation, and when we have that, we'll bring it to you. But coming up next, we have Tyvis Powell joining us. We're talking about Ohio State Buckeyes, of course, because it's the season, and then the Browns as well. We'll be right back.
I'm Tracy Townsend, anchor at 10 TV News This Morning. My goal is simple: help you feel informed and connected, because when news moves fast, you need a team that moves with you. Make the move to 10 TV News This Morning. Weekdays from 5 to 9, anywhere you watch.
Welcome back to the Big Picture, 9:15 on your Monday. Tyvis Powell from 97.1 The Fan joins us. Hey, Tyvis.
How y'all doing?
Oh, not too bad. Drying
Doing
out.
great.
Drying out is a good thing to be
We're
right
alive
now.
and it's a Monday.
Yeah, well, that
Love
means
it.
we
Life
have
is good.
we have an opportunity to have an amazing week.
Yes,
Yep.
we do. You have a
Dry
golf
real quick.
outing in this weather, you said?
I have a golf outing to go to, but I'm not golfing. If
Okay.
you know anything about me, the last time I was on a golf course, it did not go well. So therefore, it's best that I stay away from the clubs at least, because the last time somebody's club that I borrowed went into the water and never returned. So therefore, I'm just there to smile and shake hands.
Smile and wave. I love it.
Well, the Buckeyes are back 2 weeks from Saturday. We got 2 weeks to get all shaped up.
Yeah.
What are we
How we
watching?
looking?
Well, obviously, right now, you thought at this point Ryan Day wanted to have named starting 5 on the offensive line, but Austin Saraville has been hurt, has missed days, so it's hard for him to try to get that continuity and figure out who the starting 5 will be. So that's the one thing that we monitor. And Bo Jackson returned this past week with the starters as the one running back. The first couple of days he was running with the 2s, and everybody was kind of wondering what's going on. He's back running with the 1s. One of the big areas of concern with him was making guys miss in that second level. He gets to those safeties or those corners. Can he make those guys miss? Ryan Day spoke and said he's actually been doing a phenomenal job with that this offseason, but it doesn't matter until they get to the game, so we'll see how that goes. Outside of that, the backup quarterback story has been another one that's been hot. Tavian St. Clair, we all figured was going to be the definite backup, but it seems Luke Fahey, the freshman, has come in and he lost his black stripe over the weekend, and they say that he is truly making it a competition for that backup quarterback spot. So Tavian better get it together.
Mm-hmm. And talking about the Browns, they played the Bears.
Yes. Yeah.
Ooh.
It started off well.
That's all I can say.
It started off with, Deshaun Watson and the 1s going out there. Now, the Bears did not play their starters. It was the 2s and 3s and whatever. But anyways, Deshaun Watson, for a guy who hasn't played football in over 2 years,
I thought talk to you about that.
He looked well. He looked very decent out there. He made some good throws and all those things. Ran the offense at a good little thing there. So it was good. It led to 10 points on the board. Then Shador comes in. The difference between the two quarterbacks right now is I think Deshaun Watson played within system, within structure. I don't think he threw a ball more than 10 yards. Shador comes in and he throws like 2 or 3 of them that was deep down the field. So the ability to stretch the field, obviously Shador has shown that he's more willing to do that and be able to make plays. To me, ultimately, it comes down to what Todd Monken wants as a play caller. Do you want a guy who is going to play on time and just going to get the ball to playmakers, or do you want a guy that where it makes defenses have to defend the entire field?
Okay.
All right, Tyvis, thanks so much.
No problem.
All right, coming up next, we are joined by Matt Bruning from the Ohio Department of Transportation. As the state continues cleaning up from all of this water, ODOT has quite the challenge ahead of them.
I'm Jeff Hogan. I've been a journalist at 10 TV for more than 20 years. I don't just report about our community, I belong to it. And that's why we care so deeply about getting it right. And when local journalism is done right, it moves. It moves you to act, to speak up, or lend a hand. And yes, it moves your heart through the kind of human storytelling that stays with you wherever you are. And at 10 TV, we're here for all of it. These are the stories that move Central Ohio.
Welcome back to The Big Picture. We are now joined by the Ohio Department of Transportation Press Secretary Matt Bruning. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate the opportunity.
All righty. So you guys are sending your crews out to the worst impacted flooded areas in the state of Ohio today. Why are you guys doing that? What is the type of work you're going to be doing and where?
So actually, they've been out since last night in Perry, Muskingum, and Morgan counties. The mission last night actually came from Crooksville, and the village has asked us to assist with removing debris from, I think, 4 of the bridges within the village. So these are not bridges that ODOT maintains. These are locally maintained bridges. And there's been a lot of debris that's obviously got hung up under those bridges from all of the flooding. So, we're talking everything from pieces of homes to trees to, rocks, everything you can imagine getting stuck under these bridges. So that's what our crews were doing last night. And that's in response to the governor basically issuing that order and saying, he's getting those requests from the locals. Those requests are coming up to the state level. And so that's what our mission has been.
And after rains like this, and especially on the bridges that that ODOT does manage and oversee, what kind of inspections go into place when, these bridges, some of them were underwater at some point?
Yeah, and we won't reopen bridges unless we know it's safe to do that. So yes, a good point. Anything that's closed for a situation like that will be inspected before it is reopened, because safety is always going to be the number one thing for us. So that is certainly a part of the standard operating procedure. When you have a situation like this, you want to make sure that nothing got damaged by the water. You didn't have something that get washed out. We do have a lot of culverts that typically will get washed out or weakened, and so those have to be addressed. But once that's all safe to do so, we'll certainly get things opened up where we can.
And talk to us about the pride that ODOT workers have when responding to situations like this. I just can't help but think about, the storms, the winter when we get snow. But what is it like seeing, the ODOT crew step up in this moment?
Well, it's important, Bryn, to remember these folks live here too. These are not necessarily ODOT folks that are ODOT crews that are pulled in from, say, Cleveland or the other side of the state. I mean, these are ODOT crews that live in this area that has been affected by the flooding. So they're helping their communities, the communities that we all live in, and it is a big source of pride to be able to help out in this way. Obviously helping on our ODOT system, but then being able to lend a hand to our partners at the local government level that maybe they don't have the equipment, they don't have the resources, or at least not at the scale that ODOT does, to be able to get back up on their feet. And transportation is so important to this effort, because if you can't get the help into these communities, it's really hard to help these communities. So it is a big source of pride for us to be the helpers.
All right, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
All right.
Okay, so we are going to switch gears now. They are the sentencing for Devonte Dixon
into the mindset
so we're going to tap
of the
into
defendant.
That. Take a listen.
He was on community control at the time with a lengthy sentence hanging over his head. He evaded capture for 2 days, putting dozens of others in jeopardy. Law enforcement eventually stopping operations with dozens of agencies working around the clock to try to make sure that nobody else was hurt. And even when they did surround him in that apartment he was found in 2 days later, he still fired his weapon. He fired toward four deputies who were lucky not to be struck before he was taken into custody. So with these factors, Your Honor, a substantial sentence is definitely warranted here. This is the most serious and heinous of this sort of offense. Additionally, we'd like to thank the law enforcement officers who worked tirelessly on this case, and the victims and their representatives and family, who have also put in substantial time and been patient and cooperative with us. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Pritchard. Anything further from the state?
Please, the court, Your Honor. You want to address that?
I forgot that. Go ahead.
At this time, Your Honor, if the court will allow, I believe Mr. Lytle, on behalf of Officer 1, would like to address the court.
Very well. Mr. Lytle, if you'll come forward and be recognized, sir.
Yeah, I can move if you like.
So you just heard from Franklin County Prosecutor's First Assistant Cheryl Pritchard. She stepped
Your
down
Honor,
and given her time, and now we'll listen in here.
Victim 1 is asking for a sentence in this case of 90 years. He's asking for that sentence not lightly, and not without reason. This is a extremely serious situation that should not have happened. Victim 1's the thing he wants the most is for no officer to ever be in a situation where they're dealing with Mr. Dixon again and face this same type of threat. But he has demonstrated that when he gets out, this is what he's going to do. And a sentence of 90 years recognizes the severity of what's going on and what happened here, and it recognizes that this is not a case that deserves the minimum sentence. The minimum sentence that this court can hand down is 30 years, and this is not a minimum sentence case. As I said, this should not have happened at length in the memorandum I filed with the court. This is a situation where on May 28th of 2025, Mr. Dixon should have been in prison. He wasn't. And one of the contributing factors for why is he not in prison is a lot of the things that are contained in his sentencing memorandum, which were likely considered at his last sentencing. The fact that somebody has a bad upbringing and has struggles through their life has nothing at all to do with what you saw on that video. This is a man who is being chased by a police officer who has a taser at a traffic stop where there was nothing at all threatening to him, where he takes off and he goes on the ground and stands up and takes an isosceles shooting stance. It is not indiscriminate fire as described by his memorandum. It's aimed fire. The gun that he had 15 rounds and 11 of them hit. That is not indiscriminate fire. Sentencing in this room does not have anything to do with what may or may not happen in another court related to his previous case. It does have to do with the fact that through his entire adult life, what he's done is get guns, get in trouble, get out, get another gun, and then cause chaos for people. It's, for victim one, the fact that he came onto this traffic stop and comes into contact with a man who the man himself knows, if I get caught, I'm going to prison forever. But victim one is approaching this situation as a standard traffic stop, which happens all the time, and someone takes off running. The information disparity that is created by leaving someone out on the street with that much time over their head puts every officer that has to come in contact with them in danger. You know, through the defendant's memo, on page 4, there's a couple things where they're just not true. And each one of these not true points actually emphasizes what the victim thinks this court should be concentrating on. On page 4, it says Mr. Dixon fired indiscriminately. He didn't do that. And that's a recognition of the fact that his deliberate aimed fire enhances and makes this situation much more serious. Later on in the memo, there's a discussion of a person who was sentenced to 75 to 81 years in prison. And that's put up as if it is more serious than this offense. But it's not. There's only one victim in that case, not 6 officers who were shot at. The next one, someone got 58 years for shooting at police officers. No one was injured, less victims, not more serious. Another case, 48 to 50 years, no one's injured in that case. The fact that that's trying to be presented as somehow this case is less serious than those cases is just, it's demonstrably untrue. The fact that those cases are cited is because this case is that much more serious. There's a undercurrent throughout this motion of the idea that a young black man is going to be inherently fearful of the police and is going to shoot at them if they start chasing him, and that that's somehow okay. And that idea is offensive, just in general, and has nothing to do with what happened here. Mr. Dixon was afraid of the police because he's a criminal. Criminals fear the police. We know this since we play cops and robbers when we're 2 or 3 years old. That's why he was fearful of the police. He was fearful of getting caught, not fearful for some politically created reason. When you look at the sentencing range that is here, this is the most serious type of offense. These officers weren't out there doing something wrong or underhanded or anything wrong at all. They're doing traffic stops and they are just gunned down. You saw the video of it. You saw after victim one is laying on the ground, helpless, you can actually hear his taser firing, and you know that's what was in his hand. Mr. Dixon is using aimed fire, continuing to shoot him and shoot him and shoot him. He was trying to kill him. The fact that he didn't kill him is a miracle. It doesn't end up in Mr. Dixon's favor, though. Probably the hardest thing to take amongst being shot at and injured and nearly orphaning his son, you know, the circumstances where all this comes about. We're then told that Mr. Dixon is remorseful. I know the court's seen this one.
Court has reviewed it.
See it again.
This is John Little III. He is the attorney for the victims in this
I've been in
case.
law enforcement for 21 years, and I know a prison tat when I see one. That is a plan for a prison tattoo. One where he gets to go to prison and brag and pretend to be the man because he shot at officers who did nothing to him. It is the existence of this tattoo plan is complete proof that he has no remorse. Mercy in a courtroom can be a good thing, but sometimes it's a luxury that as attorneys or people in a courthouse, we enjoy at the cost of the poor. And when Mr. Dixon goes home, Mr. Dixon doesn't come back to a suburb. He goes back to his poor neighborhood, near his poor neighbors, where he arms himself. Their kids see him, what he does, how he acts, what he values, and that influence is a negative impact everywhere. He is not deserving of mercy. He has received mercy on at least 3 prior occasions, and the consequence of that has just been escalating badness. And there just comes a time where it's done. Like there's no need for this anymore. And that's what victim 1 is asking for, a sentence of 90 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Letter.
So once again, that was John Little III, the attorney for one of the victims, making the case for a 90-year sentence for Devonte Dixon. There's Dixon there. Once again, he is the man who pleaded
Anything
guilty
further from the state?
To,
Just one thing I needed to
attempted
clarify
murder
from the
on
defendant's
2 Mifflin
sentencing
Township.
memorandum. The state rejects the use of race as a sentencing factor. 292911C expressly prohibits that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now,
On behalf of the
First
defense,
Assistant
Mr.
Cheryl
Williams.
Pritchard.
Your Honor, thank you, and may it please the court. Your Honor, I did review the same materials before today that the court did. I want to begin my comments by saying that anything that I offer here this morning is not an excuse. It's an explanation of how we got here. Nothing that I say is in any way going to attempt to minimize the harm that was caused by Mr. Dixon to these officers. Physical harm, emotional harm, psychological harm. We understand these officers and, frankly, their families have experienced that, all at the hands of Mr. Dixon. We own it. We understand. But nothing happens in a vacuum. There's a reason why things happen, and it's important for the court to know, it's important for the state to know, it's important for these victims to know, and it's important for this community to know how we got here. So social history is important. We put a great deal of emphasis in our sentencing memorandum on his history, not as an excuse, but as an explanation of why we are here. Whatever sentence that the court imposes in a few minutes, it's going to be heavy. If it's 30, it's heavy. If it's 90, it's heavy. Everything that he faces here today is mandatory time. He doesn't get days off for good behavior. He doesn't get any chance for early release. It's day for day for day.
This is Adam
I
Kane,
first
that is
met
Dixon's attorney.
Mr. Dixon August 1st, 2025. He had just come from Grant Hospital, where he endured multiple surgeries and was in a coma. He was transferred to a rehab hospital close to downtown. Me and Miss Lawson went to visit him at the hospital. He looked pathetic. He couldn't talk. He had a trach in his throat. His only means of communication was writing on a whiteboard. I'm a career public defender. I didn't know what I was going to find when I walked in there that day. I have interviewed thousands of clients. I knew what the media had said about him. I knew what the allegations were. Went in, met with him. The first thing that he writes on his whiteboard, the only thing he could communicate on was a whiteboard about the size of this page. And he wrote, "I almost took a father from his kids." I was relieved. I was relieved that he had humanity. He had heart for somebody else, not himself. It's very easy for criminal defendants sometimes to get very self-centered. That wasn't him. It was then that he started to realize the magnitude of the damage he had caused to these officers, to their families, and also to himself. On May 30th, 2025, that's the day he turned the gun on himself and was apprehended. It was his understanding, that moment, that he had killed one of these officers. And he had acquired a gun, it was a long gun, and was turning it on himself. He wanted to die. He couldn't face it. Nobody in this room can tell me that he's not remorseful. He didn't have a trial. Never wanted a trial. He knew what he did. He felt it best to plead to a series of charges and face the consequences, and that's exactly what he's doing. The fact that he accepted responsibility, pled guilty, should count for something. No one can tell me either that when he decided to plead guilty, there wasn't a whole lot of relief on this side of the room. There was. I want to talk a little bit about Mr. Dixon's life. He just turned 23 in June. He was born in Lima, Ohio. The PSI suggests Columbus, Ohio, but that's incorrect. Within the first 2 to 3 years, his mother and he moved to Columbus in hopes for a better life and more opportunities. I wish that happened. She did her best. She worked multiple jobs. He didn't have siblings in the household. It was just him. He recalls at age 5 having to move, and this is ironic, because of gun violence. Who in this room remembers age 5 moving because of gun violence? I would guess only him. not what a person's memory of childhood should ever be. He was a decent student, C's, B's, and C's. He graduated from Northland High School. But in 2022, his life changed drastically. Within a month and a half, his 4-month-old child died of SIDS. And about a month and a half later, his mother passed away from cancer. He was devastated. That was his world. He spiraled. I think anybody in this room would have spiraled. Except most of us have support. He didn't. There's been a lot of talk about his 2023 case that he was on probation for. Acknowledge that that was a serious case. I wasn't part of that case, but there was a plea negotiation. The state of Ohio, the same office that's represented by these folks over here, joined in, agreed to a sentence of probation. True, the court always has the option to either accept or deny plea negotiation. But for the most part, the judges trust us. We know our clients, they know their victims, we know what's best, what we believe is best. So all of this criticism that he shouldn't have been out to start with is unfounded. Part of that probation, he went to CBCF. That is a lockdown facility. He graduated. That's not always the case. He was very proud of how he was doing. I believe it was about 1 year and 2 months after being placed on probation, takes us to the end of May of 2025 when this incident occurred. Obviously on May 28th, you've seen the video. I've seen it more times than I can count. It's disturbing. We would show our client at the jail, he could barely watch it. He hates it. He hates what he did. It started, I would call it a garden variety traffic stop. Nothing crazy going on. He's a passenger in a car. So I would, among other things, disagree with Mr. Lytle about the other cases that we cited in our sentencing memo. Those cases all involve a criminal suspect starting the affray with the officers. That wasn't the case here. He was a passenger in a car that was stopped because somebody was leaning into it in the middle of a roadway. I'm not saying they should have stopped him or them. And he certainly should have stayed in that car, but he didn't start it. One of the important things in that video is he tripping and falling. I think that's when everything went south. I mean, it was already south, but it was even further south. Because at that moment, given his perspective, given his fear, he thought he was going to get shot. He reacts, jumps up, and starts firing. We've all seen it. He panicked out of fear. He reacted out of fear, not malice. The time between May 28th and May 30th, when he was on the run, he was literally going from house to house to house, trying to find anybody that would harbor him. He was exhausted. Nobody would let him stay. He was a vulnerability. As part of our investigation of this case, we had an investigator in my office interview my client's aunt. And I'm not going to use her name, much like the state's not using the officers' names. We interviewed her to verify what these SWAT officers had told her. SWAT was looking for Mr. Dixon, obviously, and showed up at the aunt's house, said that they, and I'm paraphrasing here, would shoot him on sight. We wanted to know whether aunt relayed that to Mr. Dixon. He had called her, of course, wanted to come by. She said, no way. And she relayed to him that they said they would shoot you on sight. For a man who is already afraid of the police, that's not going to make you make better decisions. He just got further deeper into this. He never contemplated leaving town. I probably have asked him five times at the jail if he ever thought of just leaving town. Never. There was this disguise, not his idea. Of course, he went along with it, not his idea. So that gets us to May 30th. Had another firearm. This time it was a long gun. He ends up in the Obet's area, crawls into this attic. It's like a 3-story apartment building with an attic at the top, an attic with no windows. He could hear the deputies outside. He knew he was trapped. He knew he was going to die. He believed he was going to die from these officers. So he turned the gun on himself. Before that, he prayed out loud for 3 to 5 minutes and turned the gun on himself, striking himself in the facial area. The whole SWAT incident at the Obet's address started at 8:02 p.m. and was over at 8:16 p.m., 14 minutes in length. Some of these shots that he was doing toward himself obviously went through the roof. I do not believe, given what I know about the discovery, the videos, and in conversations with my client, that he was shooting at any of those officers. I reviewed body-worn cam footage of those officers at Obet's. They're standing around. They are, I've had a cop shooting case before. It didn't seem like that. It wasn't casual, but it wasn't, I think they knew where he was, generally, in the attic. One of the officers said, quote, "shots fired in the attic," end quote. So that helps us understand that he was in the attic. Next quote, quote, "he took one to the head. It took him 4 or 5 tries." Understanding that he was likely trying to kill himself. Last quote, and this one's a good one. "It's usually just one shot. He probably had to work up the courage." To me, they all understood he was up there trying to kill himself, not shoot at them. Did bullets leave the roof? Yes, they did. Because of that, we are asking that counts 6, 7, 8, and 9 be ranked concurrently to each other. In looking at the PSI, Your Honor, obviously we corrected the jail time credit on page 10. He does, one of the first two things I do when I look at a PSI is look at the offender's version. He does take responsibility, says he shot out of fear of the police. In looking at his record, he has only as far as juvenile record goes, a traffic case, no delinquencies, if you will. As an adult, there was a felony CCW reduced to a misdemeanor level offense in 2022, an obstructing official business felony. That was an incident that occurred when his child died of SIDS, that he was at the hospital. Is he proud of that moment? No. There were a couple of dismissed cases listed in the PSI. I'm troubled by PSIs including dismissed allegations. We can't have it both ways. The state can't dismiss a case, but then also hold you responsible for the allegation. I know the court will put the appropriate amount of weight on a dismissed case. Page 23 in the PSI about his health. His health is poor. His health will always be poor, regardless of what the court does here today. He has permanent nerve damage and took some serious had some serious surgeries at Grant. It took months before he could actually talk to us clearly, and so I think health will always be poor. Page 24, finally, the other part that I look at oftentimes on PSI is his attitude. Felt shame and sorrow, and he wrote, I think, a fairly nice apology toward the bottom of that page, page 24. Looking at the state's sentencing memo, Your Honor, on page 6, the authors are opining, and as they did today, that Mr. Dixon has no remorse, no shame, no sorrow. We disagree 100%. What I have in my years, 30 years of doing this, what has always been very interesting to me is if a client, if a defendant in a PSI expresses zero remorse, then it's fair game for the state to comment about that, of course. But when they offer that they're remorseful, the state will always say, this is self-serving. He's just doing it to get a lighter sentence. And so you can't have it both ways. The state wants it both ways. With respect to the drawing that was offered, I was over at the office this morning. I saw one of the reporters here in the room headline come across my watch, and it said something to the effect of shooter mocks Mifflin Township officers on the eve of sentencing, something to that effect. That is irresponsible to say that. They have no context of when that was drawn, for what reason. The sheriff's department took multiple drawings from our client. They gave the state 2. We spent some time in this sentencing memo addressing how these likely came about. He's in a single cell for a year, no counseling. The only people that will talk to him are standing right here. Is it challenging? Yes. Did it happen yesterday? No, it did not. Months ago. So it wasn't on the eve of sentencing. It wasn't to taunt these officers. He was expressing how he has been made to feel. I've kind of wrestled all weekend with how to address the victim's rights attorney's memo. I was disgusted when I read it. It's outrageous. It's undignified. It's unprofessional. It's disrespectful to this court. Lawyers using names like monster, animal, dog. This system and these four corners of this room deserve better. It was disappointing to read. My understanding of Marcy's Law is that, and I've rarely seen a Marcy's Law attorney, but my understanding of Marcy's Law is it is supposed to help victims be able to say how they feel. I really don't think that's what was in that. I think it's how Mr. Lytle feels. I don't think he did anything for that victim. I would be ashamed to have filed it. All that said, I understand and can appreciate the pain and suffering that the victims did go through, not minimizing that at all. Your Honor, briefly, we did file a sentencing memo. We put a lot of effort into that. And I think looking at the cases, the Ohm case from Union County, the Redmond case in Marion County, and the Jeffrey case in Allen County are illustrative of similar cases this year in Ohio. And like I said earlier, they were all cases.